How's it going, everybody? My name is LuckyBunz, and in today's video we're going to be doing a full breakdown going over Shadow Moltres. This is an extremely detailed analysis, so I hope you guys are ready for this one. I wasn't going to make this video originally, but the shiny actually ended up getting enabled, and this was, not supposed to be enabled according to the official Niantic infographic, but like many things, Niantic did not proofread before posting, and this ended up being an error, so this is kind of a game changer. And I wanted to give a major shout out to a lot of you guys for actually commenting on my monthly breakdown video and letting me know this, because otherwise I would have never actually made this video. And like most legendary raid battles, I usually recommend not going too hard until the shiny form actually becomes available, because if you're gonna raid heavy, you might as well have a chance at getting that elusive shiny. Now unfortunately, these raids can only be done in person and over the weekends of October, but the good news is that Shadow Moltres is actually doable if you have the right counters. Otherwise, I would recommend anywhere from like 3 to 4 trainers to get this thing done. So that being said though, let's go over the counters right now. So Moltres is going to be a fire and flying type Pokemon, which means it's going to be double weak to rock type Pokemon. So the counters are going to be as follows: Mega Diancie, Mega Tyranitar, Mega Aerodactyl, Shadow Tyranitar, Rampardos, Rhyperior, Tyrantrum, Terrakion, Gigalith, and regular Tyranitar. You could also go ahead and throw in Alolan Golem and regular Golem, in their shadow forms I should say, Primal Kyogre, and Mega Rayquaza. Anything else that's kind of on this list is a little bit too resource intensive in my opinion, but any of the counters I just mentioned are going to be top picks to use against Shadow Moltres. Now with that out of the way, let's go and talk about Moltres in terms of its raid relevance as both a fire type attacker as well as a flying type attacker. We'll start with fire types first, and the ideal moveset is going to be Fire Spin plus Overheat. Now in terms of the shadows, Shadow Moltres actually ranks at the top of the list alongside Shadow Entei as well as Apex Shadow Ho-Oh. In terms of shadows and legendary Pokemon, this is ranked right above Heatran but right below Reshiram. So pretty much all around, Reshiram with Fusion Flare is going to be the superior choice if you have it. Not to mention you can also lucky trade your Reshiram to save Stardust, and you can actually do that with Shadow Moltres. So Reshiram is going to take the main prize in terms of the overall fire type relevance, but now let's talk about the flying type relevance for Shadow Moltres. So the ideal moveset is going to be Wing Attack plus Sky Attack, and Sky Attack is going to be an exclusive moveset, so you're going to have to use an Elite TM if you want to get this on your Shadow Moltres. Rayquaza with Dragon Ascent is going to be the best flying type attacker in the game though, and by kind of a long shot. The downside here is that this moveset is not really that accessible because you need to actually have obtained a Meteorite to give your Rayquaza Dragon Ascent. This was rewarded during GoFest earlier this year, and even for free-to-play players they were able to get this. There was also another way to get it if you had the event ticket, and then there was a third way to get it if you actually got it as a drop from raid battles, which was like super slim. I think the odds were like 1 out of 125 or something along those lines. It was pretty ridiculous. I personally did about 25 raids for Rayquaza that day because I was trying to go for the hundo, and I never ended up getting another Meteorite. So it's kind of a slim chance to get it, but if you were able to get one, or if you even just have one right now, just make sure that you use it on the right IV spread for your Rayquaza, because that thing is rare. So basically a long-winded explanation, but essentially this means Rayquaza with Dragon Ascent is very difficult to obtain, so Shadow Moltres kind of takes the relevance in terms of the next best flying type attacker in the game. But again, the biggest downside is that charge move Sky Attack, because it is a legacy move, so it's kind of expensive on its own because you're going to need to use an Elite TM. Now we do actually have one more contender that got added into the meta earlier this year, and that is going to be Yveltal with Oblivion Wing. This is an exclusive moveset, but given that you can actually just get it from raid battles, it's a little bit more accessible than Rayquaza with Dragon Ascent or Shadow Moltres with Sky Attack. And this actually ranks really close to Shadow Moltres, so if you guys actually have Yveltal with Oblivion Wing, then Shadow Moltres as a flying type attacker isn't going to be that great for you anymore. Not to mention in terms of overall resources, Yveltal would be the best bang for your buck, similar to Reshiram, because you can just lucky trade it and then power it up, making it a lot more budget friendly while still providing the same value as a Shadow Moltres at a fraction of the cost. So unfortunately, in terms of fire type and flying type relevance, Shadow Moltres has kind of been shifted out of the accessibility meta. Like, it's still a really good attacker to have, but in terms of like resources, you just have better options out there. Reshiram is a fire type attacker with Fusion Flare, and then Yveltal with Oblivion Wing as a flying type attacker. Now with that being said, hopefully I didn't off-put you guys too much from Shadow Moltres, because that's definitely not what I was trying to do. I was just trying to give you guys some more perspective in terms of like, accessibility, Stardust cost, resources in general, and overall, like if you aren't able to trade with anybody, or if you don't have any friends who have Reshiram with Fusion Flare, or even, Oblivion Wing on Yveltal, well then Shadow Moltres is going to be something you want to really focus on this month, and there is a bigger appeal to it, which is going to be the Shadow Shiny. For those who don't know, Shadow Shiny Pokemon are amongst the rarest shinies to obtain in Pokemon GO because you can't actually trade them, and you can only do Shadow Legendary raids in person. So personally, when it comes down to it, I really want to get my hands on a Shadow Shiny Moltres. Like, the appeal of just having a Shadow Shiny Legendary is so awesome on its own, not to mention one that actually has some pretty good meta relevance still. Now we do actually have a few more talking points as well that I want to go over, some questions that I kind of get asked frequently, or at least I did when we were going over Shadow Mewtwo, so let's talk about this for Shadow Moltres as well. The first one is, of course, the easiest one, TM Frustration. All of your Shadow Moltres are going to have Frustration, and you can't actually TM them away except when we have a Team Go Rocket Takeover event. But you guys are actually in luck because we're going to have one upcoming at the end of October, so all the Shadow Moltres that you end up getting, well, you can just TM them away at the end of the month. Really easy. The next thing is going to be purifying your Shadow Moltres in order to get a 100% IV Moltres. So while you guys are hunting down the Shadow Shiny, you might run into an IV spread that could potentially turn into a purified hundo, basically anything with an IV spread of 13, 13, 13 or higher. And due to scarcity, I did not recommend purifying your Shadow Legendary Pokemon in the past, but since they're actually available in raids now, this means you're going to more than likely be able to acquire an excess amount of these Pokemon. So if you're able to secure a few good IV Shadow Moltres, I would say like, I don't know, between 2 to 3 including the shiny, then it would make sense to add this hundo to your collection if you end up getting an IV spread that is above 13, 13, 13. Now again, there's no major benefit to doing this because in terms of fire type attackers, regular Moltres has been severely outclassed, and unlike Mewtwo, it does not benefit from Mega Evolution in the future, so if you were able to do this, this would mainly just be for your hundo decks. Now of course, with that being said, we gotta do the classic comparison using a 100% IV Moltres versus a 0% IV Shadow Moltres. I feel like it's always worth going over this for anybody who doesn't understand why Shadow Pokemon are more powerful in general, even with the worst IVs possible compared to the regular hundo. So Shadow Pokemon are given a 20% boost to their attack along with a 20% reduction to their defense. This is pretty much how they're balanced out. So they're going to do a lot more damage at the expense of taking more damage. And essentially here, guys, even the worst IV Shadow Moltres will end up doing way better than a purified Shadow Moltres, like with the best IVs. Now hopefully by this point in the video, you guys have a better idea of the overall meta relevance for Shadow Moltres and whether or not it's actually worth investing into it. So this is my opinion, but I would say that the Shadow Shiny, regardless of the IVs that you end up getting, is going to be a worthy addition to anybody's collection. Like I mentioned earlier, guys, this is easily one of the biggest flexes you can have in the game, and this Pokemon, similar to Shadow Mewtwo, has amazing meta relevance, and it's going to maintain that for quite some time. Like even when we get like Shadow Reshiram in the future, Shadow Shiny Moltres is still going to be an awesome flex and a really good fire type attacker. It's not going to be like the best of the best, don't get me wrong, but it's still going to be a Pokemon you can use without a doubt. Now objectively, overall as a fire type attacker, Shadow Moltres is not the top dog anymore. It was for a long time, but now Reshiram with Fusion Flare is just, far superior and less resource intensive if you decide to lucky trade it, so it's still my preferred pick. Now in terms of flying type attackers, Shadow Moltres with Sky Attack still holds up quite well in the meta as well, but the barrier to entry with that Elite TM is kind of high in my opinion, and the same can be said for Yveltal with Oblivion Wing, but you can lucky trade that, so in my opinion, I would just go with that one because it's again less resource intensive, just like Reshiram, and it's pretty much just as good. So, bottom line here, guys, if you get the Shadow Shiny, power that one up. That is going to be without a doubt one of the best investments just for flexing purposes. I mean, if you don't power up Pokemon that you really like or that are super cool, then are you even really enjoying Pokemon Go? So as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below, but that's basically everything that I have for you guys in this one. If you're still looking for some more content, I'm going to recommend these 2 videos right here, but before you go, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you all real soon in the next one.